Cool, let's see who turns up. Right, we're working on the scattergun today. I've got it all ready. I've got the high clearance links in it. I've got the Holmes Hobbies motor already in, just got some banana plugs. We've got some Velcro on the front and some Velcro on the side to move stuff around. And yeah, let's see how it goes. Hopefully my mic's close enough. I've got my close-up camera ready. We'll see if we get anyone in. So that's the truck. It's all in pieces, shells somewhere else. I've got my soldering iron ready. Got my crazy octopus monster thing to hold wires together. Got a load of cables and Deans and micro or XT30 connectors. But I'm going to create like a Deans Y plug so that I can run two batteries in parallel. So I need to make sure I get the connections right for that. So that's why I've got red and black wiring, so don't screw that up. We've got all my soldering stuff, so I've got a bit of flux to clean my soldering iron. I always clean it before I get started, so I re-tin every time. Got my Castle Bluetooth link, which will make programming a lot easier, since I've got a Mac and I can't program it with a Mac, so I can only program it through that. This is the ESC that's taken weeks and weeks and weeks, even though it was express delivery. I'm going to get it opened up and take a look to see whether it actually has any battery cables, battery terminals on it. I've got a couple of connectors, a couple of converters that I can use if it has, and if it hasn't, that'll be our first job. And it's also saying it's only suitable for vehicles up to 6.5 pounds, so it's a good job that this has gone on a massive diet. Now, I've been really careful with choice. There's no brass on this, and it runs a really low front end. So I'm going to mount the battery in the ESC. I've actually got one of these tiny batteries charging now. It's a 1000 milliamp 80C battery, so that can put out 80 amps of continuous charge, and I think it's about 140 burst. So more than enough to power this Snubnose, probably enough to even power the axe system. So that's pretty impressive. So that can sit up front, the ESC can sit up front. Just got to look at mounting options. Off we go. So giant box for a tiny thing there. I suppose it looks good if it's in a shop. They've very kindly supplied it with a fan, so we will jump onto the double camera and get that fan off, and we'll get all set up. I've moved the angle round. Hopefully it's still a reasonable angle. And I need some tools. So, fans are great and they keep your ESC cold, but when you're crawling you tend not to get the ESC too hot anyway. You certainly, depending on how you gear your truck, I mean if you're putting this in a TRX4, you'd be on the limit of the weight that it would want to support in terms of motor size anyway. But if you're putting it in a TRX4 Sport or a sort of lightweight SCX10 or Capra, then it's going to be absolutely fine, and you're never going to be doing more than about 8-9 miles an hour unless you decide to gear it a bit madly, and so you shouldn't actually need to worry about heat too much. So while it does come with a lovely fan and it has a lovely mud guard on there to help keep everything going, that's just going in the box because we're not going to run that. We've got a really nice long cable as well. That's going to be great because this is going to sit right at the front, and I'm just going to see which way these batteries, so the ESC and the battery, I want them to sit side by side, but I can tell you now that's a really bad idea because the ESC and the battery are going to get really hot. So I might side mount the ESC because my body posts give me a bit of height, and then probably look at whether the battery will then play nice. Yeah, so I can get my thumb between that gap between the ESC and the battery. So that's going to get mounted on its side. Should have plenty of space for heat dissipation. I'll make sure that it's nice and flush against the steel rails, so we'll get a bit of a heat sink out of that. Although the bottom of the case is plastic, so we'll see. Yeah, and it's got barely any capacitors in it. There's only 2 caps in there, so that's why it doesn't have a very strong BEC. Nice switch on it. That's quite cool. Yeah, not a lot more I can say about that. Let's get some Dean's connectors on it while the battery's charging. Say hello. Hi, Diecast Logics. Thanks for joining us. Right, we're just going to solder on some Dean's connectors. So I use a TS100 soldering iron there. It's powered by either a lipo or mains, and it heats up stupidly fast. I'm just going to set the temperature to quite high. I'm going to set it to 400 degrees because I'm using lead-free solder, and I'm going to be doing quite thick gauge wires. Let's tidy up my tools. I've got a mat, which is like a welding soldering mat, and I've got a sort of standard silicone mat for soldering. So let that get warm. Right, they're pre-tinned, so that's good. Hopefully they're tinned with lead-free solder. You never know with the American stuff. Now hopefully I'll get this right first time. I tend to mess up battery connectors. So I will grab a battery, and I will want to put the long blade to positive and the flat blade to negative. So we'll just put some flux on to get it nice and clean, get some solder on, get that tinned, get that soldering iron nice and ready. Then we'll get some solder on the soldering iron, transfer some heat into this, and then just try and tin this a little bit. There we go. Dead simple. I would get the camera closer, but it's not going to pick up this level of detail, unfortunately, because it's just an iPhone 6S that's been sat in a box for ages. There we go. Soldering iron set to 400 degrees because I want to be able to do really quick connections and not mess about. If you have it set really low, then you're going to have trouble with it just struggling to transfer heat. So now that's tinned. Forgotten again, the bottom one. Top one's black, right. So we will put some heat shrink on this, which I have in the bag. I get all my connectors and stuff from Component Shop, so they give you little bits of heat shrink as well. So pop that on. So it's going to heat up the wire. And now the wire's hot, press the wire onto the battery and hope it's not going to wiggle around too much. Let's put a pair of pliers on it to keep it relatively straight. Come on, just transfer the heat. Yeah, I'm going to have to use my little spidery thing, it's just wiggling around. Right. So I just need something that's going to hold it a bit more stable than plonking weight on it, and then I should be able to apply a light pressure on the solder. So I'll just heat up that solder and then push the wire on. Just need the heat to go through, come on. Yeah, that looks clean enough. So there we go for the camera, just together. Might try and push that on a bit better actually. Give it a bit of pressure. Oh, that is warm. And that failed. Oh well, not to give up. There we go. We'll just get it held together properly. Oh, this is chaotic. Should have just left it. There we go. And then just leave it how it was, because it was absolutely fine. Right, I'm just going to try and tip it on its side. Will that do it? Yeah. There we go. It's got a little blob on the other side. I'm just going to flatten out so I can get the heat shrink over a bit easier. There we go. Don't want to get it too hot. Great. Right. Yeah, there is definitely no editing when it's live. Can blur it out for the live replay though. Just made a bit of a mess, so I'm just cleaning off the excess so it's not got too much. Right, so bit of solder on the tip, just because the iron's cooling down, and just double check this cable against the battery. Yeah, that's correct. So now I'm going to just have to plug in the heat gun, because I'm having to choose between heating myself and heat gunning everything else. Oh, I've just unplugged my battery charger. Never mind. There we go. You would never know that I'd stuffed up the solder and made an amateur connection, because the heat gun hides the whole thing. Right, just get my battery charging again. Cool. Right, So we probably need some Velcro, which I've got a big box somewhere behind here. So Velcro is really good if you're still in the sort of experimental stage of playing with your rig. I keep using this rig for the budget brushless as well series that's coming along. Keep burning up ESCs and motors, so I don't have a solid recommendation yet. But yeah, just a bit of Velcro just on whatever you're doing. Just make sure that I can plonk it on and get everything connected. The main thing that I want to do is get it connected up and just make sure it's got everything that I need. I've also realised that I've just done all that soldering and forgot to put a JST on it. So, because I've got a direct powered servo, so I think I'm just going to use my little balance plug adapters. And what these do is they plug into your balance plug. If I can find the right camera. Plug into your balance plug and you can power your servos from them. And you get a 3S, 2S or 1S feed depending on which pin you connect to. So that's really cool. The other thing about that is, and not that this is very good for going underwater, they say don't put these underwater, it seals up your balance port as well. So if you do decide to use your truck like a submarine, then it will work that way. Right. So my battery's got about 12 volts in it, so that'll do for now. I want to set it up with these tiny batteries as well because they've got really short connectors, so I need to make sure I've got all the right space. Yeah, in fact I don't need that stand yet. So we can now mount the ESC on the side, and the battery and the ESC can go on each side, and then all of our weight is as low as possible. But the combination of these two, this battery and ESC, is only 140 grams, so actually having it a bit higher up isn't the end of the world. So if that battery's, now the battery I think is slightly heavier than the ESC, so I just want to have a think about which one goes flat. And also I've put that Velcro on the ESC and I probably don't need it, but I might go for ESC flat and then a Velcro strip. I've just got some servo wires running over the top of this rail. Let's get them to the other side. Might run the battery at the front, and of course I've set it up so that you can't see that. How about that? Yeah, so we've got ESC on one side, battery on the other side. I can put some Velcro on that battery and along the bottom edge, and that'll hold it in place. Hopefully it won't wobble over and knock the ESC all the time. But I want them to be movable so that if I do decide that this is wrong on the trail, I can just go Velcro, Velcro, and then now they're on the side. So before we do all of that, let's see what god-awful noise this is actually going to make. So go back to the main view. So I'm told that outrunners don't sound as bad in real life as they do on all the YouTube videos, and I'm about to find out. So this fits, and it's sensorless, so it really doesn't matter which order these cables go in as long as the motor turns the right way. I'm sure people will be screaming saying you should do them, you know, ABC, but all I'm trying to do at the moment is make sure the middle one is actually in the middle. Possibly for my own OCD, because it's not going to make a blind bit of difference. Okay. We'll put our B-Link adapter in. It's got a reset pin, that's useful. Doesn't say where that goes. I'm assuming that this goes between the servo and the ESC, so it powers it. Interestingly, they've used different colour wires for their, I think it says signal. Right. Okay, put the battery away from my face. Would make good viewing, but not for me. Oh. Okay, so my throttle's reversed because I was playing with a hobby wing the other day. So I will put my throttle back the right way. Oh, that's got some punch on it. That sounds way better than the budget brushless ESCs. Although it does beep when you try and do a low throttle, so that's quite annoying. So the best way to find out is to pop a shell on, and we'll see how noisy this is actually going to be, because the shell acts as like a resonator. Cool. Right. Well, that was surprisingly easy. That was, yeah, that was incredible. And I managed to plug it in the right way, and it turns the right way. I'm not sure what the beeping is. I'll have to look into that. It might be this B-Link thing. Maybe you're not supposed to leave it in all the time. So it definitely needs to go into crawler mode. And I can tell I've got the ESC the right way around, because it's got a green light and a red light for whether it's going forwards or backwards, and that's really cool. Yeah, that's quite punchy. That is quite punchy. Right, I guess we'll do the Castle B-Link thing. So Castle Link. Tell me in the chat if the noise of the heater is too loud, and I can put a jumper on instead and turn the heater off. But the microphone's like right above it. Right, it's downloading the world. Downloading latest settings, downloading something else. Yeah, it seems to be when this blue light flashes a few times, the ESC then beeps to tell me that it's trying to connect. That's quite cool, the little reset pin. I'm going to assume that's to reset the Bluetooth. It doesn't give you a pin, so no idea what's going on there. Oh. Still downloading. It won't be helping that I'm sort of live streaming and the Wi-Fi node's through the wall, and this is trying to download as well and all sorts. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. It took too long to download the settings, so it decided to log me out. Right, next. Okay, great. Of the B links that are in range, this one is not compatible with the app. That's not useful, Castle. I'll try logging in again. Okay, right, okay. Having to register an account while doing a live stream probably is not the most interesting thing, but I'm just on the Castle app trying to register an account. I thought I had one registered. Right, link new controller, next. Ah, right, okay. So I've got a feeling that Castle Link might not work on an SW4. That'll be really annoying. Right, now it's picked it up as a Sidewinder 4. Oh, right, okay. Let's add a passcode. I hate to say it, Castle, your software is not very good. I've managed to connect to the controller. It's asked me for a pin, and I've changed my pin, and then the app's crashed. So now it's trying to connect to the controller again. This time the app's just completely crashed. And it looks... I mean, my day job's a software engineer of sorts, and it just looks like they've tried to do a cross-compiled app. It doesn't seem like a native app. I'm just unsure what they're trying to do. So I'm going to turn off the B-Link for now, because that thing beeping at me is annoying me. I'm going to give this a few more attempts. In fact, I'll turn off my controller. Put that to one side. See if this app actually logs in. In the meantime, I need to make up that Y cable that I was talking about. So I'll pop it onto the both mode, try and get you a better view of me soldering, if that's interesting. Wow, okay. So I needed to verify my account, but the software doesn't tell you you have to verify your account, so I think it's now trying to verify my account. We'll leave that to one side. So soldering iron's heating up. because I cleaned it recently, I'll just let it heat up. Right, this Castle software is just annoying me, so I'm going to close everything down, start again. I now have an account that should work, so I'm just going to leave it to try and connect. In the meantime, we're going to get some Dean's plugs and create a Y cable. And the reason for this is to be able to run a battery on each of the side pods. I'm going to move my receiver and pop that at the top. It's just going to be zip tied to the gearbox somewhere. Okay, this is almost working. I'll do the Dean stuff and then I'll try and program that Castle thing, because otherwise it's just going to have me swearing live on air. So I'll just get some of these out. So batteries have the female connectors, so I need 2 male connectors, female connector, and 6 pieces of heat shrink. And then because it's Dean's connectors, I don't need the connector wire to be as thick as a battery wire, because it's only going to draw half the voltage. Half the amperage from each battery. What I am going to do is just try and work out how long my cables are, and they actually seem to be fairly long, so I don't think this connector is going to have to be very big at all. So I'm just going to chop off a couple of inches of wire and solder up these connectors. Make it the same length as the other, otherwise it'll be all wonky. Right, there we go. These are just some Lexan scissors that turned out to be rubbish, and they're sharp enough for anything apart from Lexan, so I just use them as general scissors. No point in sending them back and moaning at the shop and everything else. It's just, you know, get on with it. Alright, I'm going to cheat, just use some strippers. That cable doesn't want to strip. There we go. All those little bits out of the way. So I'm going to solder these 2 wires together. So I'm just going to try and sort of braid them a little bit. So I'm going to see if I can just get them to cross through each other so that the current goes all the way through. I've used smaller gauge wire to do this, so that they're not too chunky on the connection side. This just needs tinning. Try and get some heat on the wire. Just let gravity do its thing. Yeah, that'll do. And this one I'm going to try and do a bit better, make a better job of it, and I'm going to braid these together, dip them in flux, and then try and solder them together, because that would make more sense, seeing as they just seem to be coated. There we go. Don't want to create too much of a ball here. I want it to be quite flat. So that just gets a dip in flux. And the flux sort of cleans the wire and sort of helps make a better joint. So, oh, this cable's got all twisted up. Yeah, that heat's transferring much better now. There's a bit of flux in there. Oh, that's taking a lot of solder. Lovely. Right. Yeah, and that's done both sides straight away. So this joint here is a bit pants, so I might just check that. Oh, actually no, that's gone quite well. I'll just do the same on this one. Just try and feed in a bit of extra solder. Yeah, that's just letting me fill it full of solder, which is good. I want that solder to get all the way through and penetrate. Great. Then we'll just tin the others. Try and get a bit of flux on them. Just saves you messing about too much. Just flatten them down. Cool. Do this one properly. Just twist the wire slightly, dip it in the flux. And then the heat just goes straight through. I'm not even putting the solder on the iron, the solder's just on the wire. And the wire, because the flux has helped penetrate the surface, it's just soaking up all that solder, which is good. It's what we want to see. Nice covered wires. Although I've just heated up the outside a bit too much. Starting to smell funky. Flux is an irritant, so just be careful if you've got sensitive skin. Generally when it's hot it's more of an irritant than when it's cold, so not too much of an issue. Just going to sort this cable out, it's got a bit twisted up. And yeah, all the burns on this side of my arm are from me using the soldering iron with my left hand, so I will be careful. Ish. Yeah, a bit of danger is good for the channel. Right, what are we doing first? We're doing the connector. Right, the question is, can I squeeze a piece of heat shrink through there, or do I need to find the bigger piece I had ready for this? Yeah, great. Oh, that's wrong colour. No questions either, great. So I don't have to think. So I'm just squeezing this through, trying to get the heat shrink on. Ideally I need some bigger heat shrink, but I've been daft and not bought any, and just trying to use the freebies that I keep getting with cables and parts, and just squeeze it on. I'll sort that out later. I'll get this connector on. Just grab a battery to remind myself. Flat side is the negative. So again, just tin this up. If it doesn't want to go on, then just a dab of flux. So I'll just grab something. There we go. Then we'll just heat up this connection. Or we will attempt to heat up this connection. Just see. Still just absorbing the solder. So that wire is now nice and warm. Pop that wire onto that Dean's plug. Just try and give it a bit of a squash without melting the plug too much. And hopefully, if the flux has come off, nope, not quite. So, what went wrong there? It's probably this got a bit too warm. Let's try popping this on its side so I can get that lower. And this thing falling apart, this is the result of going on Amazon, sorting by prime, so you don't have to wait 3 years for it to come from China, and sorting by lowest, so that's why it keeps falling apart. But it was cheap, so I don't care. Right, heat up the solder on the plug this time, heat up the solder on the connector, and then hope that that heat travels through and the two decide to get together. Yeah, that's better. Not sure how easy that was to see on the live stream. Hopefully it was. So, got my wires a bit too hot and melted the heat shrink. So we've now got 2 wires going into 1 plug, which is fine. That's that side, and we'll do this top side one. Let's do an experiment. I'm going to forego the spider and hope that putting these plugs on, or grips on, will hold it in place. Can't dip it in the flux, so I'll just put some flux on it. Great. Bit of solder on my soldering iron, and then into the flux, and then that should just heat that up a bit. That should just stay on there. Great. Let's clean the soldering iron as well, just dip it in the flux. So I would say this is a masterclass in soldering, but it's probably a masterclass in how not to solder. Everything's behaving now, so it's not too bad. Great. Right, I'm just going to let that cool down because the connector's got a bit hot, and I've managed to just get my solder. Actually, I'm going to have to just fix that. Managed to let a blob of solder go all the way through, so I nearly soldered the two together. But that's easily fixed. Just need to melt it so it drops back down the other side. Gravity to the rescue. There we go. Let's give it a nudge around, and that's all sorted. Right, we've got a double Deans connector on the way. Oh, but that is red hot. The wires are warm, but the connector's even hotter. But they can take a fair bit of heat, these Deans connectors. I have tested one before. I had to put a soldering iron on it for about a minute before it started melting the connector. Although that was at 300 degrees, so not too hot. I'm going to get the flux more visible. Dip this connector in the flux, just to make it really easy. Dip this connector in the flux. And then get these pre-tinned. And that should just make this job much easier. And then we'll get on with programming that castle. There we go. Super easy when you do it properly. Bits of flux on the connector, solder just bites straight on, not too hard. These are all tinned, or at least they look like they're tinned because I can't remember. So I need to do one black and one red on each of these connectors. So this is all nice and tight and is probably going to burn my fingers quite badly, but we'll get it sorted. Right, what do we want? We want the black on the... One day I will remember how these Deans connectors go together. Today probably is not going to be the day. Right, that's nice and warm. That's nice and warm. Can I get enough pressure? No, I can't. I'm going to put something else on to just hold that down. So just need to be able to press it with enough pressure that as it melts it kind of touches together, but not too much that it causes a problem. Right, that's gone together fine. It smells interesting because the solder's on, and I forgot my heat shrink. Oh, great. That whole no editing when it's live is absolutely true. So I'll do some heat shrink. So I should be able to get these little ones on. It's these big ones that I'm struggling with. So I might have to resort to using tape. But we'll see. We'll see if I can get it over these cables. It's just not quite big enough to go over the double cable. Try not to force it when they're a bit warm either. Trying the twisting method, the pushing, the wiggling, all the different ways to try and get one of these together. Right, I'll move on to a piece of black tubing and come back to the other one. I think I'm going to have to start watching more live streams myself, now that I've got an appreciation for just how weird it is to sit in your garage staring at a camera, talking away to yourself. It is very, very odd. This one's going on a bit better. This is, I think I bought 14 gauge wire, and normally I think you have a 12 or a 10 gauge on a battery. So there should be plenty in it. Should be absolutely fine. Just need to get this heat shrink on. Maybe if I was a bit neater with the soldering. What I'm going to do is I don't need the heat shrink to be as long as it actually is, so I'm just going to clip it slightly save some time. There we go. A bit more. Come on. So our wires are just starting to come through the end. And when they do, it should just slide a lot easier because it's just catching on the solder and on bits of wire and whatever else. It's a shame heat shrink doesn't stretch just a little bit, because that would make this process a lot easier and probably less tedious for the live stream. So, anyone that's watching got any questions? I know someone was asking me about 3D printing earlier. I've got a few 3D printed pieces on quite a few of my crawlers actually. And the best thing that I can say is don't use it for anything structural, because it will snap. Sliders, pretty good. I've got a 3D printed skid, but I have snapped pieces off it. So yeah, the whole, just use it for non-structural pieces if you can. Battery trays probably, provided you've got bracing elsewhere, or it's printed quite not thickly. There's PLA, PETG, there's fibre composites and all sorts. You want them to use something that's got a bit of flex, so PETG is quite good, or if you're on Shapeways, the natural versatile plastic. I'm getting fed up with this, so I'm probably going to give it up and come back to it and just use, in fact, yeah, I'm just going to use tape. I'll use electrical tape at the end because that's going to drive me nuts, but I will put these tiny ones on for the other end of the connector. People I've used for 3D printing, I've used Shapeways, a guy called John Blundell, who was on the Facebook groups, and oh yes, Mr. Dare for Dare to Print, who did the crawler stands that I really like, because you can just throw your crawler on and not worry about it too much. Right, attempt 2. Flat one is the positive one, so we'll just heat up. Heat that up. There we go. Again, because you're halving the amperage because it's parallel setup, perfect soldering's not needed, because you're not going to be running the full amperage that you would through a normal one. If you're just running a high output battery through a Dean's connector, while a Dean's connector is rated to 60 amps, they'll take up to about 120 burst amps, but that could cause you problems if you do that too much. We'll get this one sorted out. XT60s, as you can probably guess by the name, is a 60 amp connector. XT60s and Deans are pretty much equivalent in terms of continuous power. Peak power, I believe Deans are better for peak power. However, you do get that weird shorting when you connect a Dean's connector. Well, it's not weird shorting, you do get that shorting, you've probably seen them spark. Whereas the XT60s, because they slide together better, tend to not have that. But then they sometimes don't do quite so well at the old overall ratings. Which way am I going? Right. I thought I got more solder on these red ones, but I hadn't, so just adding a bit now. And that heats it up, so I can then attach it. Right, and this monstrosity is nearly done. Just need to get this last cable on, and now the rest are done. It gets a bit fiddly, so my hands are totally in the way for the live stream, and I will try and do this so you can all see it rather than watch me burn my hands. So I was just transferring the heat into that ball of solder that I had on there, and that's all sorted. Great. That stinks of flux, but whatever. Right, big ball of solder on the soldering iron. Unplug, and that can dry. Right, I'm going to let this cool down, but what we've got now is 2 Dean's plugs and a female connector, so I can now plug into the ESC, which has the male plug on it, and then plug into 2 batteries so that I can put some of these monsters, these big Overlander 2200 milliamp high discharge batteries, one on each side, trail up to wherever I'm going, and then swap over to the lightweight batteries when we get to something interesting. Or probably gonna, strap the scattergun to my back because it doesn't weigh too much. Right, let's do this B-Link thing again now that the software claims it can see it. So let's go back to out front. Right, we'll turn it on. That's going to beep at us. Hopefully. Oh, it's not going to beep at us because the controller's not connected. Right, no save vehicles found. Link new controller. Next. Sidewinder 4. Connecting. Put in the passcode. And it connects. And the app has disappeared. So that's crap. That's really poor. Really poor software. I don't know what to say to that. That's terrible. Right, we'll try it again. B-Link's in range, connecting. Type in the passcode, connecting, and it's crashed again. So I am not going to be able to program this. That's really annoying. Really annoying. Right, what happens if I don't plug it into a receiver? If I don't plug it into a receiver, that might help. If not, I'm going to restart my phone just so that no one can say, blah, 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 you haven't restarted your phone, you haven't turned it off and on again. Yeah, that's crap. Right, what can I do? I'm going to use the phone that's currently sat in the stand. So I'll try using an iPhone 6S, hopefully, because it's on an older version, it should work. This phone's not signed in to anything, so I'm going to have to sign in to stuff, maybe, don't know. No, can't get Castle Link. Cool, let's download Castle Link on a different phone. Cool. Sweet, 3 concurrent viewers. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right, that's signing into the App Store to download that. It does mean that we've lost one of the camera angles, but that will be fine for now. Yeah, we'll turn this off. We'll turn this off for now, mount up the ESC and the battery. So the battery is going to have to sit that way. So we're going to need some Velcro, which I've lost. I had a big box of it. It's going to be one of those streams. There we go. Right. Yeah, so my iPhone 6S, annoyingly, doesn't want to install Castle Link, so I'm just going to try turning off Shuttercast. Try again. Seems to be struggling to connect to the App Store. This battery is really quite short. Cool. Yeah, so that's totally going to flop around, but I'm also going to put some more Velcro on the back of the battery. Save those pieces for the other two batteries. That is really struggling to get that Castle Link software. Just what I need. Perfect. Right, I guess I'll be restarting my other phone to see if that will restart and run this Castle software. Otherwise, starting to run out of ideas. Right. Yeah, it's just having trouble with the App Store. If you're a software developer and watching this stream, do you have trouble with the App Store? We certainly do. They like to reject us for all kinds of things. And it's a right nightmare. Let's try and sign in again. Got my password wrong. Okay, cool. Right. That's the right password. Why it's not downloading, I'm not sure. I'll turn this phone back on. And we'll carry on with the Velcro. If I can find the end of it. So on my frame rails, I'm just going to put some more of that Velcro for holding the battery on, just so it doesn't flop onto the ESC too much. I'm just going to use some small pieces. Now the Velcro itself is actually really strong Velcro, so the problem I might have is the Velcro will probably be stronger than the glue for the Velcro, which will be interesting. And then these big pads go on my batteries. In fact, I might do on my batteries now while that connector's cooling down. And then that battery, oh, that's really sticky Velcro. That battery sticks to the deck and the sides, And yeah, that's really nicely in there. Now I would show you, but I'm using my close-up camera to try and program this Castle link. Cool, right. Right, now that's downloading the latest settings. So we'll get some Velcro on these batteries. And these are going to have the same on them. So one along the bottom where the hologram is, because they are genuine cheapo batteries that come with their own verification hologram to say that they are cheapo batteries. But I mean, they had plenty of punch to run that outrunner, and the sensorless sync happened really quickly, which requires a big punch of power, so it can't be too bad. Right, that's cool. Right, let's have another crack at this B-Link. So it's going to make me sign in again. Terrible password, but we'll see if that'll log in. It's doing something. Okay, I'm just going to go straight in, try and program it without having to log in and save all my settings. Right, sync controller, next. Wow, okay, so it works with an iPhone 6S on iOS 12. Whereas this one's on 14 and this is an XS. And hopefully on Friday I can put in a pre-order for my whatever the new one is. iPhone 12 I think it is. In fact, I'll try and go through work and try and get a pre-order. Cool. That's sending updates and doing all kinds of things that I hope it finishes, because if it disconnects I'll be in a lot of trouble. That's sending some kind of update, so either it's going to start working or I'm going to brick it live on air. That will be really annoying since it's taken weeks and weeks and weeks for that to turn up. While that is trying to raise my blood pressure, I'm going to just get these connectors in a better state. So is my heat gun still plugged in? No. So just need to get this heat shrink over there, and of course one piece has just started to shrink a bit, so I'm just going to nip it so I can squeeze it over. And then we can look at programming this thing. Right. There we go. So once again, not sure if it'll get picked up on camera. Once again, the heat shrink hides my terrible soldering. On this end, there's no heat shrink. That's going to have to be tape. It was just too big for the heat shrink that I had. And now I've lost where my tape is. Oh, there it is. So I'm going to take some snips of tape, wrap that round, try and heat that up so it shrinks. Hopefully it'll fit. I mean, heat shrink and electrical tape do the same job. They just stop any connectivity from bridging between the two things. It shouldn't be an issue unless I'm running in salty water, at which point my motor, servo and the rest of my electrics and probably my battery will already be dead. So I don't need to worry about whether I have a connection bridging. You can run in clean water absolutely fine, if you didn't know. Clean water's fine. Muddy water most of the time should be fine. If you're somewhere that does have a high mineral content, and that clay is the kind of clay that people like to smother all over their skin because it's full of lovely minerals, that'll thrash your motor as well, because it's the salts and the impurities in the water that actually make it conduct, because it's actually those impurities that are conducting. Pure water itself is not conductive, which is also why if your motor gets really muddy, if you when you get back to the car or when you get back home, if you run some cold water through it and just run the motor with a battery pack, that'll just help it. That'll just help it clean out and make sure that everything's fine. Oh. Right. Oh, electrical tape takes a bit more heat, but it does shrink down. And there we have our dual lipo adapter. So I can now, on my ESC, try and get it somewhere in front of the camera, I can now keep my ESC at the front, plug in this dual lipo adapter, try not to let it hit the motor too much, and then these batteries can sit on the back and plug in, and I can run 2 batteries on this if I've got like a reasonable hike to get to wherever I am. Places like Cow and Calf, you're climbing straight out the gate, but sometimes it's nice to do the big climb around the back and you go up the hill. Blackstone Edge is another one that's similar. You've got a big hike to get to the fun stuff, so being able to chuck in 2 batteries means you can go right to where you want to go, then throw in a tiny battery and have loads of fun, and then chuck in another pair of big batteries and off you go. And if I had some 4,000 or 5,000 milliamps, I could put them on. And in fact, I've got some 3,600 high voltage batteries that I could use for that exact purpose, because that would give me 7,000 milliamps of 3S power to get up the hill. Right, so it's been about an hour. The Castle Link software has now connected because I've used the right combination of phone and the moon's aligned and the sun's gone to the right position behind the moon and whatever, it's decided to work. So yeah, so I've lost my close-up phone, so that's really annoying. So what I was going to do was set the settings using one of the phones. So let's see if I can get my other phone to be the close-up phone and we can do some Castle Link programming. The receiver doesn't seem to want to light up though, so that's interesting. I've got to install a software update for that to connect, so this might not work. I might have to just move the other camera. We'll see. We shall see. No, that's not the right one. Hey phone. Yay. Okay, so that is upside down, so that's the right way. Great. Got over that hurdle. Great, so you get a lovely view of my garage and you can see all the blankets I use to keep the noise from the neighbours away. Right, I'll unlock my phone not on camera. I do remember putting my address out for everyone. No one sent me anything, so I may as well give you my PIN code. Right, here we go. So this is what it looks like. It's got a transmitter calibration. If I turn my transmitter on, I don't know whether that's going to do anything, because if we're in, yeah, it's not actually turned it on. So connect to B-Link. It's connecting. Now, did I turn it off? I probably turned it off. Yeah, I did. Turned it off. No. Let's not install yet another version of the firmware. Right, transmitter calibration. So the motor's working absolutely fine. Let's do some controller settings. So we've got auto lipo. We want 3.4 volts to cell, 3.5 volts to cell, cuts off at 10.5 volts. It's got with reverse, we want crawler reverse, disable idle beeps, brake amount, yeah, whatever, we'll just give it 60, just because we can. Drag brake, crawler full on, why not? We'll find out later. Drag brake ramp, fast, so it doesn't bang straight on. Start power low. Do we want start power low? No, we want high power. Max power reverse. Punch control. Wow, you can have a lot of punch. Let's not change that yet. Torque control. No, let's not do that. Arming time 1.5. Live link enabled, disabled. Yeah, that's fine. Motor direction normal. Yeah, that's pretty cool. What else we got? Throttle curve. So sensorless motor timing. It's an outrunner, so highest. It's a 14-pole motor, so should be fine. Throttle curve. Ooh, that's cool, isn't it? We'll have a curve. Tap a point to what? Clear points. Right, red line is the profile curve. Drag, move graph, pinch. Long tap, add a point to the graph. Oh, cool. Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool. So I'll clear the points, and what I can do is set a nice linear profile curve. That's pretty cool. So I don't have to have that in the controller. And then we hit this send settings to controller, and then we wait. And then it bricks itself, and I sit here crying, and oh, it just works. So it turns out the best way to get a Castle to work is to be really sarcastic on a live stream, and it just magically works. And also use an older iPhone. Right, let's see what this throttle curve's like. That's much better. And that is what I was expecting it to be doing. So I've got a really gentle throttle curve, but it's a bit too gentle because I seem to be quite into the throttle. So what am I in? I have to be about 13 out of 100 before it starts moving. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Right, let's try some other settings. I don't know what that random beep is. That's very odd. I'll do that later. Let's look at a drag brake ramp. Oh, so it doesn't puts the drag brake on reasonably gently if it's going fast. Punch control. Do we want some punch? We probably do want some punch. Let's go for 60%. And then I'll send those settings to the controller. And then I think it's mostly done. Someone did say they were going to send me some settings, but they've not bothered yet, so who knows. Right, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Right, so let's probably want some wheels on this thing and then have a play with it. That's pretty cool. I'm going to program in 100% punch because I like my crawlers to be really quick. I'm also going to change that. Yeah, I don't know what that beep is. Disable. Ah, there we go. Well, we'll keep the error beeps, but we'll disable the idle beeps because that's really annoying. I don't know why you would even have those. What was it? Throttle curve. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I can clear that out, and what I can do is I can put... No, let's not do that. Let's try... I want it to be reasonably linear. No, you see, that's just being weird. Right, that's more like it. Yes, I need to be putting it in about there. Cool, because I don't want it, I don't want it too crazy. I'm going to send these settings, and then we're going to try that low speed control. Ah, someone's saying the beep is normal, just in case you forgot the car was still powered on. I guess that's cool. On idle, that would drive me a bit nuts, especially when I'm trying to film, because my car will be sat somewhere, and other people will be moaning at me that my car's beeping, and I'd have to edit it out the video. So that's with loads of punch. So okay, so now I've got loads of punch dialed in, I am actually going to change that throttle curve back to being quite a gentle throttle curve, and then I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to do some reading on this as well. I don't want to tell anyone, set your throttle curve to some crazy thing. I think that seems about right. So that's going to be when you've given it 20% of throttle, you'll have 10% of the output. When you give it 40%, you'll have 20%, and then it starts a linear curve on the way up. Great. So we'll program that in, see if it makes it less sensitive. The initial low speed control the initial low speed control was really nice, but it didn't seem to have any punch. So let's see if this is a nice halfway. Okay, that's pretty cool. I think, yeah, the punch is too high, so I'm going to set the punch to 50%, save the settings, and then get some wheels on it, and then we'll see if we can run it up and down my crawler board. So that will probably be the next thing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think I'll set it even lower, and then we'll see where we go. I think I've put a lot of timing in it as well. I'm probably going to watch Probably going to watch John Holmes's video on the motor anyway, just to make sure I've got the right settings, because that would be really bad if I've got the wrong settings. So I'll turn this off. All of this stuff will get zip tied on properly in the future. I'm going to take this B-Link adapter out because I don't want it on all the time. Just get those cables somewhere out the way of the wheels. What do we need? We need one of these servo power cables. Hopefully everything's roughly in the right place, that will still reach. Yes, it is. Then we'll give it a crawl up and down the board that I've got next to me. You'll see more of how I get the colour for the video. Let's do some wheels. Right, this bit's going to be a bit noisy, so apologies in advance. But first I have to find some wheels and wheel nuts and just get these put on. Right, so that's going to be that way, yep. And just test out the battery Velcro, just give it a good wobble. I mean, it's going to do far worse than this at the weekend. I make myself out like I'm some kind of psycho with the trucks, but to be fair, I have not yet found my limits, and the truck tends to find its limits, and so I need to learn to give up before it does. Otherwise, we're probably going to fall out. I've also, I can't remember if I live streamed it, I think I did, changed my suspension setup, so I'm no longer running the super aggressive pen spring mod in the rear. So the rear should be pushing up with a lot more anti-squat now. That's right, bars and not bars, yep. I've got the Louise Rowdy tyres, Duratrax Contenders, or I think Fast Tracks Boxers, and I run them so that the rear ones, they have like large bars on the side, and I run it so the rear ones have those bars biting. Sorry, the front ones have those bars biting and the rear ones have those bars trailing. It just means that with my overdrive setup, the front wheels are definitely biting a lot more than the rear ones, and we're taking advantage of that. So by having the rear wheels slip slightly, when the weight transfers to the rear, it doesn't flip your rig backwards. But obviously that kind of gives the hint that you should run everything two-wheel drive, but that would cause you all kinds of other problems. Right, we'll turn this on somehow, wherever I've hidden the switch. Servo's working well. Right, now to get my board out. So we'll switch to the other camera and point it at the board. So I measured this board yesterday, and in the position that it's in right now, I believe it's around about 67 degrees. It might be about 65 degrees. I will check that. Yep, it's a direct power servo. It's a AGF RC. It's their brushless one. It is absolutely amazing. But I did get Holmes Hobbies, and the Holmes Hobbies servo actually died on me, but that's been warranted and that's coming back. So first test is up this board to see how it goes. That is pretty incredible. That is a ridiculously steep slope. That's about 65, 66 degrees. And the wheels were spinning because the board's wobbling and throwing the truck off. If you're on a solid board, that would be fine. I'm utterly blown away. Yesterday I couldn't get up that in the normal setup, and with that I just gave it some throttle and it just went straight up. Wow. So I'm not going to do it too much because the board actually has sandpaper on, and if you're spinning the wheels and trying to get up it, then that does cause the issue of wearing down your tyres a bit too quick. Right, let's go back to the out front. Right, we've got several phones, cameras, all sorts of things going on. So yeah, that is I installed the Homes Hobbies a couple of days ago on a different stream. So the Revolver just went in dead easily, went on the Traxxas. I can't remember what the pinion is. I think the pinion's a 13 tooth, so this thing's not fast. I'm just going to pop it on the ground actually and see how fast it is. Yeah, it's not fast, so I might look into that. But the low speed control is crazy, to say that I've got the timing dialed right up and the punch. Yeah. That's pretty crazy. So let's see how slow we can start off. Yeah, that's cool. I might look at some of the timing settings. I think I've probably got a bit too much timing in it because it's picking up too quickly. So let's just do that now. We've got everything connected. No, we haven't, because we haven't got a B-Link controller connected. So we'll turn this off, connect that up. I think the first time I run this, I'm going to be messing around with these settings quite a bit until I get it set to what I want. Turn that back on. But I can't believe how well that's performed. So I'm going to pop a shell on as well. So this is the shell that it runs with, my absolutely crazy shell. You won't lose this thing on the trails. And I'll do a quick weigh of it as well if I've got my scales. So I need to just make enough space to be able to weigh it. So I'm just going to do like the crap form of weighing, which is to, what do I need? I need a metal ruler. So I'm just going to put each end on a set of scales and then just sort of sum it up. There's a couple of things that's wrong with this method. Is you need it to be level, which it won't be. It's just going to be applying some pressure to the scales. So that's 1640 on the front end. And 1070 on the rear end, so it's coming in at 2750 grams. If I lift this up so it's level, that stays about right. That's about correct. And then if I lift this end up so it's about level, stays about correct. Yeah, 2.75 kilos with a battery, with a motor, with tyres, bead locks, metal frame, metal shocks, metal links. Everything is metal. TRX gearbox, direct drive servo. It's strong. I did break some of these aluminium links, but have tried to fix them on the last live stream. So it's super strong. I've crashed this already in this configuration with this chassis loads of times. I'm super happy with the durability. It's got TRX gearbox and TRX axles, so that's pretty good. And to weigh in at about 2.7, 2.8 kilos, that's really, really, really good. I am super happy. In fact, I'm so happy that I think I'm going to probably end it there, unless anyone else has got some questions, and do my usual thing of going and having a cup of tea and relaxing in the house, because as far as I'm concerned, it just works. You know, once you get the right software, once you get the right combination of things, it's brilliant. I guess the only things I need to do now is just zip tie a few things in. So yeah, I'll turn on the close up. If you've got if you've got questions, chuck them in the chat. We'll just lower this down so you can see what I'm doing. Just doing some. Oh, have I just flipped? Oh, cool. Right, you can see there's a mess of cables here and a mass of cables. Now, when the shell's on, that battery cable is going to be there. I've run my motor wires. My motor wires are zip tied into the frame, zip tied up and over into the ESC. So I can move the ESC over here, but given the way that thing's just climbed, that's all staying at the front. The battery's in there. The switch can just be tucked in. I'm not bothered about hard mounting that too much. So I think we'll put a zip tie around this cable to hold it on. Oh yeah, I'll talk about servos. So I got one of these AGFRC servos earlier this year. Performed exceptionally well. It is super powerful. It's not quite as powerful as the Holmes Hobbies, but much more powerful than anything else. It claims it can do nearly 60 kilos. I believe it can do nearly 60 kilos because at one point I had this truck weighing 4 kilos. I could have it up on its nose, turn the servo, and it would move the truck around. So that's the AGFRC servo. If you're in the UK, that is a much cheaper option than the Holmes Hobbies one. The Holmes Hobbies one's probably about 50% more than that. You buy this from China, they send it over really quickly. You can get a programming card for it, but it doesn't work on Mac, so the programming card's useless. I did kill one, and the way that I killed it was I ran it in water, and water got into the bearings. And even though they say this is a waterproof servo, if you absolutely submerge your truck and drive it around, the grease in the gearbox gets washed out and then the bearings rust. So to counteract that this time, I took the top off the servo, and where the water would get in, put marine grease around that, really thick marine grease. But you have to be really careful with that because the motor is directly under here, but on this other side you've got the potentiometer, and when you get marine grease in that potentiometer, the servo will wiggle, or even worse, not be able to find out where it is. It's a 360-degree servo, so it can be converted to a winch servo as well. Runs direct off a lipo up to 3S. The Holmes Hobbies is taller and stronger than this and faster. The problem I had with the Holmes Hobbies was that the software, apparently, the programming of it that they did, yeah, we don't need Wi-Fi. Keep trying Wi-Fi. Tell you what, I will put this in. No, I won't put it in airplane mode. I just don't need those two. Right, great. Oh, okay. Shuttercast. Come on. We'll get there. You can just watch everything. Hopefully that's going to come back. No, if I turn off. God. Right, I'm going to swap cameras because that's just not working now. What was I saying? Holmes Hobbies servo, brilliant servo, absolutely brilliant. Apparently they've fixed the programming. I can understand that they had issues because they made that thing work so well, and it was just so powerful that I think the new potentiometers that they used, they tried to use a more waterproof, more durable potentiometer, and it was either too sensitive or not sensitive enough and just caused them to die, unfortunately. it's not the end of the world. It's not worth getting upset about. Red Winchers that I got it from have been awesome about it. I did get frustrated with them, and they were very nice to me when I was getting frustrated and telling them off. But yeah, they've been great. They've been great, and so that is coming back sometime this week or next week. So we'll do a little thing of me installing that one. But yeah, I mean, I'm super happy with this. This truck is shaping up amazingly well and performing way better than I ever expected, and I had super high expectations. It's, for anyone that cares, it's a Northwest Scalar Designs scattergun chassis. You can use all of your standard TRX parts. So I saw a thing by Dixieland RC, who just installed these rails onto a standard TRX. I've gone one further. I've used my own standoffs. I've put different shocks on. I've got 3D printed parts. So I've got 3D printed sliders, a 3D printed skid. I did snap a piece off the skid, but that forced me to rethink my suspension geometry, which now is absolutely great for my style. I've got a reasonable amount of articulation. You know, it's almost a suspension fluid bottle's height, which is enough for me because I don't like it to articulate too much, because when you've got lots of articulation, when you get onto a side hill, to get that articulation you need your suspension to flex, and then your chassis twists and you fall off. So this has got enough twist to get round sort of awkward objects side hilling, but not enough to get me into a lot of trouble. The AGFRC servo, direct from AGFRC, agf-rc.com, I think. I can't remember completely. Their prices are in dollars, and I think their prices in dollars are very similar to the Holmes Hobbies ones. So if you're in the States, get the Holmes Hobby one. Absolutely recommend getting the Holmes Hobby one. If you're in Europe, UK like us, because of the exchange rate, who knows? You know, Brexit's happened, and so everything is more expensive now. At the time of buying it, it was about, the Holmes Hobbies was about 50% more, or this servo was 2/3 less. Yeah, it's all together. I've got some body pins somewhere to put the top on. I've lost track of what I was doing. Oh, I was just doing the cabling up. Yeah, so I will find a way to attach this cable so that, yeah, that's probably how it's going to go on, so that this cable doesn't come off with the battery. I've done that before. I've used these kind of balance connector cables, taken the battery off, taken the cable off with it, put the shell back on the truck, and then gone to steer, and obviously nothing's powering the servo. So if I zip tie the adapter on, then at least it's always there, and it weighs about 20 grams at best, so it's not the end of the world if I've got a different ESC combination on, which I do have. I do have the axe still, and the axe will go on this if I know I'm going to dump it underwater. But I know I said I wouldn't modify the G500, but it might get some hand-me-downs. I'm not sure yet. I need to do some more filming for the beginners series, but there's some really cool people I'm hanging out with who've got quite stock trucks, and they are beginners. So I might ask them nicely if they want to participate in the beginners series, and start modding the G500 so that I can send it to the moon, because it's got an 11 tooth pinion in there, and I know that the axe on an 11 tooth pinion in low gear will do 9 miles an hour. Somewhere I have a 16 tooth pinion, and actually I've got the 39 tooth spur, so I could probably go to like an 18 tooth and the 39 tooth, and get it doing like 25-30 miles an hour, which would be insane. It'd still crawl quite well, because in low speed it would still have that crazy control. I had it running on a 14 tooth pinion for a bit with the 45 tooth spur, a 3300 kV motor, and that was doing about 12 miles an hour, and it was controllable at low speed because the axis censored. That's it. Everything's, so because my close-up camera is not working, everything's now zip tied or velcroed into place. I'm going to put some pieces of velcro in my bag for the weekend when I go away and it inevitably comes loose. The battery connectors are done. Oh, the balloon trick. I'll tell you what. I was going to do the balloon trick and then I've realised that I've got the B-link. I'm probably going to be programming this for a while, so I'll keep the B-link on there. For anyone who wants to waterproof a receiver, here's the balloon trick. Get yourself a balloon, a kid's party balloon. Now, the biggest mistake that you could do doing this is to blow into the balloon to stretch it. And if you blow into the balloon to stretch it, you'll get your breath in there. And then when you seal it up, you'll be sealing that breath in there. Now, seeing as your breath is part water as you exhale, you can imagine sealing that in with your receiver is a really bad idea. Because I can actually drive this with the B-link active, I think. We'll find out. Yeah. I think I'm going to put the B-link into the receiver waterproofing and just live with it. So I'm going to be stuffing loads of stuff into this balloon. So the trick with this is to get the neck of your balloon, get your fingers in there, stretch it as big as you can. Probably using a red balloon's not great. I'm sure there'll be memes and comments in the chat. And then what you do is you try and hold it as open as possible. Squeeze that B-link in, squeeze all the wires in that you can. And then now I've got a receiver in a balloon. And then the trick is lots of zip ties. So you don't want them too close to your receiver yet. So the first zip tie has gone about a centimetre away from where the B-link is and not quite down the neck of the balloon. And we're going to clip that off. And then what we do is we fold the balloon mouth back over that zip tie. Making sure that the previous one's nice and tight. We repeat the process with the zip tie. Super tight. And then we fold that balloon neck back over. And actually, yeah, that's fine. So I'm just going to move the balloon around so it's not too tight on there. Probably should have removed the Velcro off the bottom of the receiver that I was using to hold it in place while I was testing things. Hopefully that won't scratch its way through. And then hopefully if the camera will pick it up. Maybe not. You can see the B-link is lit up and I can see its status. And then what I'm going to do with that receiver is there's a little zip tie hole at the top of here. And I'm going to zip tie the receiver to the top of my transmission so that I can run my dual battery setup should I want to. And hopefully that's big enough. It's not, so I'm going to have to use 2 ties on that side and then 1 on the other. I feel like I'm using my teacher voice. I'm going to try and use a much more natural voice. It's really hard because you're not sure. I don't know. It's weird. I'm sat in my garage talking to a camera, so it's all going to be a bit weird. Right, so I've used 2 zip ties there. That's just holding the bulk of the receiver, and then I'm going to put another one on to stop it from flapping around. And then it's at a reasonably high point, so I can see when I'm driving. And this thing's an outrunner anyway, so I'm not going to run it through too much water, or any water if I can. What I'm going to do, yep, sorted. Right. Yeah, so my receiver and my motor are both mounted above, well, they're about an inch above the wheel nuts. So as long as my car doesn't go more than the wheel nuts deep, then I know that the motor and the receiver at least are staying dry. So now we'll just check for fitment, because yes, we've got the little motor, little battery, but now I have another challenge, which is when I run, find me power button. So I'm going to take this battery off. This battery that's now held on a lot better than I thought it would be. That's cracking. Right, that is properly wedged in there. That's good. Right, not going to have any problems with batteries flapping around. My only challenge is my balance plug doesn't reach, so I'm going to see what I need to do to make that reach. I think what I'm going to create is another one of those Y connectors for the balance plugs, but it does mean I can just test my double connector. Now, I'm not actually going to plug in the end into the ESC. In fact, I'm not going to plug both batteries together because that starts to bridge the batteries. So I will just plug it into the ESC and then see if I can just get those two batteries next to each other. Yep. And so, you can see on the camera, I've got two batteries on now to balance the weight. So I've got a low down weight, so I've got a low centre of gravity, it won't tip over too much, and then I can put two batteries on, and then that gets me up the trail. Then I can play around with the teeny tiny batteries and do all kinds of crazy things, and then put these two big batteries back on, get down the trail. And the great thing is, those batteries, when this thing's sort of compressed, those batteries are pretty much at the level of just above the wheel nuts, so super low in terms of where a battery can be, which gives me a super low centre of gravity and like a really nicely balanced truck. The motor and the ESC are on one side, so if I was really worried about the weight, I can, because it's velcroed, move the ESC to the other side to offset the weight, but that's such a tiny amount of weight, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's it, I'm done. I'm going for a cup of tea. Thank you for watching. That was a lot of fun, and I'll catch you next time. Please remember to like this video, really helps me out. Drop any comments into the live replay if you want to, and please subscribe